we're waiting for people to filter in. Greetings, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome back to the channel. Whether you're watching this live on Twitch or as a recording on the YouTubes, welcome to the stream, the video, what have you. As you can see, we are doing chapters 21 through the end of the book of Lydia Kang's Opium and Absinthe. So, that's where we are at the moment. Alright. Now, let me just make sure that, yeah, so that one's muted. That one's muted too, okay. And testing, so the chat is working there. And yeah, okay. So alright, so everything seems to be working and operational. So here we go. Hey, Honeycomb. How you doing, friends? Okay. Yeah, resituate for a second. There we go. Alright. Video good, audio good. Alright. Awesome sauce. Okay. So. Okay. Have a good learn, guys. Okay. Now. Where'd he go? Oh yeah, just a thing. I don't know how much is covered in just the audiobook format, but in the ebook, it's got like the author's note and the the info about the author and whatnot, which is kind of cool. Because it's got like the inspiration bit in there. But apparently Lydia Kang is a doctor of internal medicine, so that's cool. That lends another level to the storytelling and whatnot. So, yeah. Ooh, okay, cool. Alright. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, author and internal medicine physician, graduate of Columbia and New York University School of Medicine, and she completed her training at Bellevue Hospital in New York City. So, that's cool. Alright. like, I'm gonna just say, right? Like, I realize that part of the issue is, like, just pivoting to, like, discussions of the characters and stuff. I realize that part of it is that Tilly is under the influence of something for a majority of this. But, like, there's just some things that she's doing, right? That is just, it's so frustrating to read. Ah. But, like, it. That also seems to be kind of on par with, like, the outside perspective of what someone who's going through some kind of addiction is dealing with, you know, a lot of the time. So, I don't know on that one. It must be said, don't blame the opiates for her dumbassery. It's at least 90% her. Exactly, like... Like, okay. I've known a few people who have dealt with certain things like that. And most of the time, the lack of good decision making, shall we say, extends past whatever substance it is. But, like, I'm really glad that she managed to realize that it was affecting her so bad and make the conscious decision, there we go, to try and avoid certain things. Because it was ringing a bell, but I couldn't figure out why, I happened to look up the Keeley Institute that she was sent to. And it was a thing. Like, that was a real thing. And the Keeley cure that supposedly had gold in it or whatever was a thing. And on the one hand, no. Phone, what are you doing? No, that is not an issue for today. which okay, there we go. Yeah. So apparently the Keeley and the Keeley Institute was modeled after the Dwight Institute. That was apparently the first instance where if you had some kind of substance issue, you went to a particular facility and it was like spa-esque, apparently. Yeah. Yeah. Hugs. Big hugs. What was in the IRL Keeley meds? Yeah, that I'm getting there. So here we go. All patients received injections of bichloride of gold 4 times daily. There were other tonics given as well. The treatment lasted 4 weeks. The medical profession continued to criticize the method, and many tried to identify the mysterious ingredients, which is where we get the instance of Tilly stealing the meds that she's been getting to send them off and get them analyzed, which, smart move, really. Like, not being facetious, that, yeah. Seriously, James is such an ass in so many ways. So many ways. Destroying the notes and everything. Really. On top of, the whole laundry list of other things that he's done. But in this particular instance, that's what I'm referring to. Yeah. Medical profession continued to criticize the method, and many tried to identify the mysterious ingredients. Strychnine, alcohol, apomorphine, which Tilly was thinking that morphine might be in the drugs because she feels better when she's taken some. So, there you go. Willow bark, ammonia, and atropine were claimed to have been identified in the injections. The injections were dissolved in red, white, and blue liquids, and the amounts varied. In addition, patients would receive individually prescribed tonics every 2 hours throughout the day. Treatments lasted a period of 4 weeks. So, yeah. And if y'all want to check it out yourselves, that is the link that I was referencing. Yeah, exactly. Like, you want to run that by me again, guys? Yeah, I realized that people thought that arsenic was, good to, what, oh, I found it when I was looking stuff up. 1 second. That's not how you spell Victorian. Oh, yeah, there we go. Yep. Now, grain of salt here, because, have not confirmed this particular bit, and mental floss is, well, actually, yeah, that works. That seems to be accurate. Okay. Mental floss is kind of hit or miss sometimes with. Is it trying to load a thing? I don't know. Come on. There you go. Yeah. Kind of hit or miss as to whether or not it's accurate and stuff. But apparently, arsenic was one of the top remedies that Merrick's 1899 Manual of the Materia Medica recommended for treatment of anemia. Apparently, throughout time, it's been used in small doses to treat anthrax, syphilis, anemia, and various other things. Yeah. There's times, right, that I have to look at past eras and wonder, what were they thinking? At which point I have to wonder what from, the current era future generations are gonna look at and be like, wait, they did that? What? Like, just solely on a medical level. Like, there's plenty of other stuff that would apply to. But, exactly. Like, you don't have to worry about it if you're not there. No. No. But yeah, then laxatives for treatment for chickenpox. Because, yeah, there you go. Going in the same vein of arsenic for anemia, you got strychnine, so rat poison, as a treatment for constipation. Chloroform was a treatment for hiccups. So, yeah, there you go. The thing that you get when you mix bleach and alcohol. Because obviously. And inhaling smoke was supposed to, help with asthma. Yeah, I have heard multiple times that cannabis smoke can be beneficial to people with asthma. It's a big press X to doubt on that one, for me. But you do you, whoever. Yeah. And there's the fun, like, oh, you're alcoholic? Well, have some cocaine instead. Because that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, there's that. Ah! I. Ow. Okay. Oh, yes, heroin to fix morphine addiction. Yeah. Seriously, like, there's just times, right, that you're reading something and it's like, what? Because I know at one point, heroin was seen as a non-addictive substance. Just like morphine was seen as being perfectly fine. And laudanum was given to babies, which, like, we see right out of the gate that is not a good idea. Don't do that. Like, when it's mentioned, it's in the context of Ian's little brother died because someone gave him laudanum. So, like, yeah, how about we don't do that? But, like, I want to say that at least some element of, like, here, take this heroin was, like, at least in theory, originally supposed to be as like, a bit to help Tilly feel better and all that. But also, it's from James, and he's a class A douche in however many ways you want to take that. And the entire rest of the interactions with him is just very superficial and only wants to be associated with her if she's, all meek and controllable and, like, docile and whatever. So, probably not. Guy probably has some kind of inkling as to what the meds do to people. Just as a thing. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, seriously. Like, James pretty well showed his true self right out of the gate. Like, there were layers, right? But, like, it was there. But Hazel, though. What? Really? What? Oh. Like, seriously. Like, I. And then. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just as a side note, though, right? I do like, if we're taking it as alright. If we're taking it as oh, what was the thought? What was the thought? Where'd it go? There we go. Okay. If we're taking it as a given that for the majority of the story, Tilly has been under the influence of some kind of substance, which she has. But like, if it's been affecting her more than she thought it was, if it's been affecting her perceptions of reality and everything else, then okay. I know sometimes when you're in an altered state, tone and inflection kind of gets jumbled a little bit. So certain things that John might have said could have different connotations depending on what is going on and whatever. But like, I do appreciate the whole insert towards the end where Tilly's being like, Tilly's getting really uncomfortable because John's just staring at her. And Ada comes up and's like, dude, put your glasses on. You're freaking her out. Again. Oh, you look old. Woo. You can't see, dude. Come on. Like, yeah, no, that, the relatability of that one statement out of everything else, like, accurate though. uh, seriously, like, There's been so many times that I've, like, forgotten my glasses or whatever, and they're in a different room, or, like, there's been a couple of times that I've left the house without them. Like, I don't know about anybody else, but, like, I, for one, should not be driving without these. It just a thing. Like, I know vaguely what the text in the chat says because I read it before taking them off, but, like, if I was trying to read it now, it'd, you know. There we go. Now I can see. Like, yeah. Okay, back to the rest of the shenanigans in here. Alright. Hey, Toma. How are you doing? How is your fabulous self today? Yeah. Yeah. I figured, might as well use the lav mic, because it works pretty well. And yeah. Doing good but tired. That's still good, because back to working, which means money. Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you there. Definitely a positive on that one. Seriously. Yeah. How's the reading so far? Pretty good. So, just a fair warning here. We're going through the final couple of chapters in the book over yonder here. So, if it's a thing that you'd like to read, beware of spoilers. Just FYI. A story in which there's basically it reads as a CSI episode. But, like, in Victorian New York. And there's possible vampires. But not. But, like, maybe. Sort of. Yeah. Yeah. Uh-huh. Exactly. Yeah, no, seriously, like, they're the twists and the whatever, it reads like a Criminal Minds story arc. Which, it's not referenced in the, like, inspiration bits, but I've seen a number of, yeah, I mean, you got me at Victorian, but ooh, extra sparkle. Exactly. Like, and there's, yeah, no, I've seen episodes of Criminal Minds, and to a degree supernatural, really, that follow this same thing. Blood's extracted and consumed. You could make the argument that the murderer is a vampire. I mean, you could. That's, yeah. A vampire, or at the very least, vampire adjacent. Or, like, the closest that, a non-vampire could maybe be to a vampire, shall we say. Um, but yeah, there's, there we go. There's some interesting setups in there. uh, yeah. And there's a cute love story. There is. When Tilly actually uses her brain and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Seriously. I will say, right, there, we've got an interesting progression of Tilly. Okay, and just we're going back into spoilery sort of territory, sort of now. So just be advised on that. Yeah. Yeah. Brains. Brains are indeed sexy. But, like, she heard from, like, Tilly heard from the doctor of non-existent hygiene at the institute that she was being held at, that the article was published that she wrote. And then no one let her see it. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. Like, I'm gonna just say, right, there's a lot of medical type things in here because it's dealing with opiates and things like that, and there is discussion of injections and things. and how to phrase. Improper care of needles, shall we say. So, yeah. On top of which, the description of the doctor dude just made it seem like Snape was going around giving people injections. At which point, I don't know, with the greasy hair and the stuff, and I don't know about that. uh, Also, like, can we just take a moment to appreciate the absolutely daftness of, James and his, attempts at being supportive. Like, because the dude keeps encouraging Tilly to have an occupation, but, like, only in the sense of something that we keep her occupied instead of, a job and things. Just, embroidery or something like that. Not, writing or anything. I will say though, even even dealing with the dubious efficacy of the drugs that she's getting at whatever places. Do not do not desecrate the craft, James. Seriously. Like, James. Well. Well. Seriously. I like how embroidery and church work are, like, in the same category of, like, frivolous pursuits that, aren't gonna actually mess with anything, so it's fine. You can do it. Like, do you know how hard it is to do embroidery and not stab yourself? Not to mention if you're trying to do that while high on something, like. Aha! Under the influence of nothing and fully rested, I still end up, like, stabbing myself at least 4 times per project. And that's, like, the tiny whatevers. Like, seriously. Thank you for foiling autocorrect. That was meant to be denigrate, yeah. I figured it was either denigrate or desecrate, and went with the slightly more dramatic one, maybe. Like, seriously. Crafting while high can be very entertaining. I mean, it can. But, like, at this point, I've got enough experience trying to sew while sleep deprived because of any number of deadlines, whether they're self-imposed or not. So, and the number of times that I've ended up stabbing myself trying to sew buttons onto something in the same project. And that's just like putting 2 eyes on a cat or something, is kind of astounding. Would not recommend. But, like, yeah. I'm just imagining a grandma sitting in a rocking chair with knitting needles and wool in her lap and just going, whoa, where did this row come from? I mean, if she's knitting and managed to get the entire row actually on there, like, that's a feat in and of itself. And also accurate. Yeah. Like, just sitting there with, like, yes, my hip's been acting up, so I took my lozenge and oh wow, there's like an extra row. Where did that come from? Hello. Yep. Exactly. Wouldn't put it past them grandmas who knit. They powerful. They are. Know someone who knit an extra 5 feet on a scarf while on post-op meds. Yeah. Yeah, I believe it. It also depends on what kind of a knit you're doing. If it's just a straight knit purl, I haven't done it well on meds, but once you get into this cadence, like, I've ended up making a scarf an extra, like, 3 feet long. Just because it was there and, like, oh, look, a thing happened. But, like, there's some choice phrasing in here that I rather appreciate, right? So, Tilly went from thinking that James is really cool and stuff, but being confused as to why her dead sister's fiance is paying attention to her, to not wanting anything to do with him, to being rather annoyingly enamored with the guy, to now she's getting off the meds and is like vaguely clear-headed, at least. Sort of. and, we, and we get the line when James kissed her cheek, and quote, "It was an effort not to act as if she'd been kissed by a dead fish." Which is descriptive, I will say. I mean, also, like, yeah, quote 19 there, that is rather apt for this whole bunch of shenanigans right here. Yeah. Exactly. Uh, okay. James, please see quote 19 above. Yeah, exactly. This is how you die. Oh. Ah. And then, like, I know it's to reinforce that Ian is a decent human who wants his friend to be okay and not end up the way that he's seen a lot of people. But, like, there's. He's got so many good lines, though. It's like, there are other ways to deal with grief. Opiates are for broken bones, not broken hearts. Like, yeah, yeah. If you're dealing with an emotional situation, which, grief is very much in that category, and medicating it away is not a good idea. Yeah. It it is interesting though that like we see like I'm glad that they included the articles that were written, because that, I mean, it gives more depth to the situation, but B, it's being intentionally written like by the overall author to seem like the author of the article is if not visibly under the influence of something, then at least like noticeably if you know the person under the influence of something. And that's cool. Yeah. But it's interesting, because there's elements in there where it's like, the article was good, but she didn't recognize herself in writing it. Like, as someone who wrote most of their papers in high school in the middle of the night, well, at least somewhat dissociated, probably. uh yeah, can see that. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Rereading something in the morning when you've written it, it's a trip sometimes. Uh, but yeah. Okay. Just gonna mute the mic for a sec. There we go. Okay. Um. So. Okay. Just a thing, right? Disregarding uh the doctor guys, you know what's his name? Dr. Millspa, right? Disregarding Dr. Millspa's really bad hygiene practices and everything else associated with that place. Like, does he just think that the women folks aren't, capable of doing vaguely, like, not shady, but like, for lack of a better word, nefarious practices or whatever? Like, seriously. This guy put his medical bag down and then couldn't find it, and then finds it downstairs with the patient that he was just talking to. Doesn't bother to check its contents. Just says, "Oh, there you are. I was wondering where I put you." For the bag. Like, are you in the habit of just having a moment where you can't remember where the drugs that you're carrying around a residential facility are? a residential facility that is entirely populated by addicts? Like, is that a thing? Sir, and this is the person in charge of all the meds and everything, and oh god, it just, oi. Have a good night, honeycomb. Have good sleeps. Like, seriously. Yeah. So, we know that James is a jerk at this point, but not how much. And then we discover, well, like, not only did James just throw out her notes that she was writing, and the whole, like, if she had an article going already or not about the Keeley Institute, but is having a relationship with Hazel, and from the sounds of it, has done for a while, behind everybody's back. Is gaslighting everybody. Just assumes that Tilly's gonna marry him because reasons? Because her family wants her to? I don't know. And gets seriously pissed when he finds out that Tilly's not taking the heroin anymore. Because, you know, she's not all, like, malleable and everything anymore. Oh, heavens. Heavens. Not that. Not that. Oy. Seriously. On top of which, right, she's going through heroin withdrawals, and probably still opiate withdrawal, really. Having a really bad time of it. Her friend Dorothy comes to visit, and her visits always made her felt better. But then hours later, she would feel even worse than before. Like, is everybody just trying to keep her drugged all the time? Like, seriously, what? Really? Really? Oh. And James keeps trying to get her to take the dang heroin and stuff. And, oh, man. Now, I appreciate that Tilly is going to certain lengths to catch the killer who is going after people who have newly recovered from infectious diseases. But when the manner in which you're going about doing so involves going into a secure smallpox quarantine ward and doing whatever is in your power possible to contract said smallpox so that you can then get better from the smallpox. Because then you might, flush out the culprit. It's a choice. It's a choice. Oh, man. I do like that Tilly is, recognizing that Ian is, the good one of the bunch, though, finally. Okay, so, we also see in chapter 24 a little interlude of vax versus anti-vax, it looks like. So, yay! Because there was a massive smallpox outbreak, and like when she was a kid, or infant, really, or no, she would have been like 5. Yeah, I think she was about 5. And everyone else in the family was vaccinated, but her mom was having a fit that Tilly was too young, so therefore shouldn't get vaccinated. So, there we go. And that's the same chapter that we find out that James assaulted Betsy? Betty, yeah. So, Lucy's nurse, or Lucy's, I can't remember her name, or her title, yeah. Maid, there we go. Lucy's maid, Betty, who's really good friends with her, and was helping Lucy share like food and stuff with Foundling Hospital. And then James assaults Betty on the way home from something because they dropped Lucy off somewhere. Like, oh, seriously. And then I get having particular priorities, but when one of your friends says, hey, yeah, so this dude that you seem to be really into is a generally bad guy, like, objectively speaking, like, I know for some people the draw for a certain lifestyle or whatever is a big thing, but when you hear that, you know, the dude is continuously unfaithful, and on top of, and the bigger one really, assaults people, just, because, apparently. That's, that's grounds for a big no on that one, but there we go. Okay. Okay. Now, I do not have any experience with ether. But from what I remember hearing, if I remember right, it's basically an anesthesia. And the description of the ether made her feel like a piece of a puzzle dropped into a stew full of shoestrings and potatoes. None of it made sense. Like, yeah, that sounds about right. that does indeed sound about right, really. To be honest. All the instances that I've had with surgery and whatever, that seems like a pretty apt description of coming out of and or going into the anesthesia process there. Okay. So now we get to the big twist, the big reveal of the story. Alright. So, if you wanna, avoid hearing about that before you've read the book, click away. Fully understandable. Or at least skip to now. Skip to the end or so. But, yeah. Okay. So, Tilly goes to meet Tom because Tom tried to assault her and injected her with, like, a serious overdose of morphine in order to assault her, really. And he wanted to apologize. He said that he'd been making his own meals for the last couple of days and he felt a lot better, felt stronger, that sort of thing. And then we discover that the reason he feels stronger or had felt stronger is because his mom, who is, the wife of Dr. Erickson, has been feeding him. Oh, it's a arsenic, I think. Yeah. I do believe it was one of the ones that was arsenic and something else that was weakening the system, which, yeah, obviously. At which point, how much is the guy actually sick and how much has he been subjected to his mom's obsession with keeping him ill, so he's dependent on her? Because it sounds like the dude is, you know, a massive jerk who doesn't have, you know, respect for women, but is more or less fairly able-bodied. Might have some allergies or something if, you know, the, like, what is it? If the delicate stomach situation that she's describing is actually accurate. Or, like, might be prone to indigestion or something. But that's no reason to kill a bunch of people and cook down their blood so you can feed it to your kid. Like, and I realize that over the course of history, medical practices have changed dramatically. And at one point, what was it? At one point, mummies were seen as medicinal, and bits of mummies were ground up and made into medicine. At certain points, like even in the book, one of the ways to fight against vampires that's listed is, like, if someone has been afflicted by the vampires and they're stealing the person's life force, then you're supposed to kill the vampire, burn its heart, and then feed the heart to the person who's affected. That just sounds like it would go real bad real fast all of the time, but there you go. The one instance that it's mentioned, the kid died anyway, so there we go. And like, now we've got transfusions and vaccines, and like in the last year there's been certain instances where people have gotten a disease and then went in, and because they still have active antibodies in the system, doctors were able to try and isolate the antibodies to better make a vaccine in a faster manner. That does not, however, mean that harvesting blood to feed it to your unsuspecting kid because he's got a weak constitution that, to most people would mean that, you can't eat spicy food, probably, and you might be, like, lactose intolerant or some shit. Like, a lot of people are. Huh. And to have that be like, oh yes, yes, well, he's so delicate. Yes, we need to, instead of using vaccines for certain things that had been developed at that point, like the smallpox vaccine was a thing. No, like, no, we can't use that. Instead, I'm gonna kill a bunch of people who have all recovered from some contagious illness, drain them of their blood, cook it down, and then put it in my kids' food. Because that's a rational course of events. Seriously. And then we have like, so she's attempting to do like science things, because science, with the whole like antibodies in the blood. She doesn't call it that, but it's like there's research supporting the idea that if someone has recently recovered from an illness, that they have something in their blood that helps fight off the illness, which is the antibodies. That's the point. That's why it's a thing. That's what they do. Which, fair. Understandable. And then she goes with the, like, no, in order to do the thing, like, my son already takes too much morphine, but, like, I'm gonna give you morphine so that it calms you down, because if you're really excited and agitated when I get your blood, then the excitement is in the blood, and then it would transfer to her son, and that would be bad for him. Which, haven't even addressed that. My harvests have nourished his stews and soups and drinks, though he doesn't know it. Like making blood stew, like with people. So we've got a serial killer who is forcing her son to drink blood, because that'll make him better, even though she's apparently the reason that he's not doing so great in the first place, really. Because she keeps poisoning him. A doctor who just ends up prescribing everybody, from the sounds of it, with morphine and bloodletting, and has, generally appalling everything. And their son, who has never learned how to be a gentleman, whatever that even means, and goes around trying to drug and assault people. So, lovely family, really, all told. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah. And then we get the instances where it's like, this, I have seen this in a show so many times. Mostly because, I haven't seen them for a while, just because, like, now it's a matter of trying to find the episodes on Netflix and stuff, and I just haven't for, I don't know, the last year or so. But for a long while, NCIS, especially like the original DC one, but NCIS, Criminal Minds, sort of CSI, but like not really, but also kind of. Rosalian Isles, Diagnosis Murder, Murder She Wrote, like that right there, totally my jam. But most recently, it's been Criminal Minds as the go-to one on that. And like, seriously, the number of times that I've seen a scene play out in Criminal Minds, and to a lesser degree, Supernatural, honestly. There's been a few in there too, where where the person being held has friends outside of the holding facility who are trying to figure out where they went, and just coincidentally keep, bugging the person to the point of absolute annoyance. And end up catching them in the act and rescuing whoever is in the otherwise isolated space. Is kind of high. So, like, yeah. Also, I do appreciate that Tilly had the presence of mind to respond with a whistle, because that, like, even when you're gagged, you can kind of, it depends on the person and their own abilities. Because, like, I have a hard time whistling already, just, like, as a thing. Like, but it's a thing that you don't need words to be able to vocally get out, you know? So, yeah. And again, like, we've got Tilly being rescued, the perpetrator of all of the murders being prosecuted, which, awesome. And she's back home recovering, has to go through withdrawals from the stupid morphine again, even though, and all of this, right, like, oh, okay. How? Okay, so the final chapter setup is December. When did it start? June. Yeah. So all of this, the entirety from Tilly falling off a horse and her sister being murdered, getting addicted to opiates, getting off of opiates and on to heroin, weaning herself, or like cold turkey, really, honestly, going cold turkey off of heroin, dealing with like James and all of his stupid shenanigans, writing an article, getting sent to a residential facility for like drug addiction, uh, being abducted by her former doctor's wife because she survived smallpox, which she intentionally contracted in order to lure out the perpetrator, which, I mean, it worked, but at which point she's stabbed with the morphine again and has to go through detox again. Sees the person who is trying to get her to marry him, James, decide that she's not, I don't know, not malleable enough of a person anymore. And doesn't look appealing enough because she's got smallpox scars on her face now. And all of that meets Ian and writes in a letter to her sister in a journal that, like, it's just a matter of time before one of them asks the other one to marry him. So, like, all of that takes place in less than 6 months. Like, what? It starts June 8th with a letter to Nellie Bly. And ends December 1st of the same year. It's like, Tilly, You have had a time of it. Like, seriously. Huh. Oh, okay. That's where it was. Yeah, the arsenic and mercury in the Fowler solution and calomel that uh, Mrs. Erickson was feeding to her son Tom was doing a lot of bad. Yeah, understandable. Keely's gold cure has no gold in it. That's the thing that she stole from the Keely's Institute. Um, and just this line, right? Grandmama has finally gotten over her shock that her female descendants do, in fact, have as much backbone and fire as she has. Valid. uh, yeah. Like, and again, like, I know that some people have different expectations for marriage and different, like, I don't know, requirements for uh partnership and whatever. But when your friend says, like, hey, so I know you want to marry this guy for whatever reason, and, I'll support you in whatever you decide you want to do, but, like, you should know that there's some things that you don't know about him yet, okay? Like, let's sit down and have a chat. Alright. So, tells Dorothy. So Tilly tells Dorothy about how James forced himself on Betty, how he hit Lucy, how, like, there was a relationship between him and Hazel, and it was it. She shrugged and said, all husbands are imperfect. It is up to their wives to keep the sheen of perfection well polished. Like, Dorothy, your relationship is not a plate that you need to shine up and put on display. Alright? Like, if you're not even, like, if you're not even married yet, right? And that's your outlook, like, I get that her family is not as well off as they would like everyone to believe. So, having a influx of familial wealth into the family's coffers is, probably a big thing for the lot of them. But, like, Dorothy, really, really, like, come on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I really appreciate, what was it? Just the idea that Tilly wants to marry Ian. Like, it's not outright stated, but it's just like, yes, well, it's just a matter of time if he asks me, or if I ask him. We'll see. We'll see what he says. Like, we'll see what kind of a reaction he has. He'd probably be perfectly fine with it. It's great. Like, but but Lucy, like, guess who I'm talking about? Like, it's Ian, obviously. He's the only decent one of the bunch. Um, but she got the kids. What are the names? Piper, Pops, and Sweetie into school, and Pops wants to be a university professor now. Like, yes, let the kids go to school, and then they'll be able to do stuff. Yay. On top of the whole, like, she wants to adopt all of them, but wants to be married first because she's just, kind of traditional like that. Honestly. And then, oh, oh. And then we have the last. Okay, so the last line of, or well, is it the last line? Yeah, the last line of the official chapters is, for the first time since Lucy died, Tilly cried. Because, like, it's everything converging to that point has come to fruition. Everything that she was trying to accomplish has been accomplished. Her sister's killer was caught and is being prosecuted. No one else is going to be harmed, and she can continue on with her life. In the process of doing that, she found a passion for writing and investigative work, and found Ian and some really good friends. At the end of the letter to her sister, that's like the first entry to a journal. So it, from the looks of it, she's going to structure the journal as letters to Lucy, as a way to try and establish, at least for herself, that communication that she was lacking during life, or during her sister's life. And then we get, like, a little passage about the ring that James just kind of forced on her and kept insinuating was, like, totally, yeah, that's what you agreed to, obviously. When I returned the ring, I enclosed a note. Do you want to know what it said? Dear James, please find your Please find enclosed your gift. Thoughtful though it was, I do not believe it fits me very well. As for your offer to build me a grand library that would house all the stories I should ever wish to read, thank you, but I must decline. I prefer to write my own. Sincerely, Tilly Pembroke. He never wrote back. Fancy that. Yes. Yes. It took a while. It took a while. But she got there in the end. Like, oh, man. So, that concludes it's a random moth. That concludes Opium and Absinthe. Yeah. Huh. So, there's that. It was a frustrating read for a lot of it, I will say. Between, like, Tilly's a smart person, right? We know that. It's, it's evident right out of the gate. But there's so many times that she doesn't use the full mental faculties at her disposal. And it's so aggravating. Again, she got there in the end, but oy. And yeah. So there's that. I'm glad that her family finally came around to her doing her own thing though, because really, or she needs that. Alright. So, this will be up on the YouTubes in the next couple weeks. Now, for next week, yeah, for next week, and for, following weeks for the rest of them, for the next month, we've got In Defense of Plants. Full disclosure, this one was sent to me by the publisher. And it came out. Does it say when it came out? I want to say it was March. Where is your publishing information? Okay, it just says 2021. I'm pretty sure it was March of this year. But In Defense of Plants by Matt Candias, PhD. And it's by the guy who runs the In Defense of Plants podcast. And yeah, it looks like a cool cool book. So we shall see what's in there. There's some interesting photos and illustrations and whatnot in there. So if that is a thing that you would like to participate in, this is going to be our next book. I do know there is an audio format. I'm pretty sure there's a strictly ebook format too. But yeah. There we go. Here. So with that. Because there's 8 chapters, I'm thinking to do the preface through chapter 2 for next week. That might change. I don't know. We'll see. If it does, there'll be a note in the Discord and whatnot. But yeah, all the chapter headings and stuff are like so. It's the same orchid illustration as the front. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And this is that's the first nonfiction we've done in 2 months. Okay, right. So, yeah. We just did Opium and Absinthe, and then we did Firekeeper's Daughter last time, and the last nonfiction we did was Braiding Sweetgrass. So cool, very cool. Anyway, that is it for today. Yeah. Anyone have general questions or whatnot before we end stream? Probably not. But yeah, no, we're good. We're good. Okay. All right. Thank you all for stopping by, participating. Yeah. You are entirely welcome, Toma. Thank y'all for stopping by, participating in the stream and the discussion and the general awesomeness that is a Monday Botany Book Club time. And I will see you all fabulous people later. Have a good one. Now, well, I've got somebody here. Is there anybody on right now? No. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's go over here. Let's go over here. So, we're gonna do a raid. If you wanna hang out for that, if you're still around, Toma, that'd be cool. If not, that's cool too. But we're doing can I remember which one it is? There we go. But we're doing a raid for... Come on. Doing a raid on Bean. Which, if you're not familiar with Bean, they are fabulous. And a generally super fab human. And a non-binary art person. So, there is that. Okay. So, have a fabulous rest of your day. I look forward to seeing y'all on Thursday. Good God. Boy, there we go. Have a fabulous, fantastic rest of your day. And we'll see you all later. Have a good one, guys. Have a good one.